Kunja Bihari.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Raja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Raja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Too loud. Yashodanandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Gacharya Sataraswati Shri Śrimad. The Divine Grace of Bhagavatam Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrila Prabhupada Ki. Jaya Natuli Vishnu Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Gacharya Sataraswati Shri Śrimad. The Divine Grace of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Swami Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Grantaraj Śrimad Bhagavatam Ki. Lord Premanandi. All glories to the Summa devotees. All glories to the Summa devotees. All glories to the Summa devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga, and Srila Prabhupada. Continued reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, additional pastimes. A visit to Boston. Some of the devotees who had seen the poor attendance at Prabhupada's Boston University lecture feared the same thing might happen at the Harvard School of Divinity. So they suggested Swamiji wait at his apartment while they went ahead to the lecture hall to see how many people would gather. When they saw a decent number gathering, one of them phoned Hansarupa that Swamiji should come. Meanwhile, at the lecture hall, Joseph Matthews, a graduate student in Vaishnavism, addressed the audience, describing from the mundane academic viewpoint the history of the Chaitanya movement. Prabhupada, arriving half an hour later than scheduled, led the audience in kirtan and began his talk. He praised the Harvard students as fortunate, citing that according to Vedic literature, aristocratic birth, good education, beauty, and wealth are the four chief material opulences. Compared to others in the world, he said, the students at Harvard had all these opulences. If, however, they could increase their good fortune by adding Krishna consciousness, then that would be their perfection. For example, gold is certainly very valuable. But if gold were to have a pleasant fragrance, then it would be even more valuable. Similarly, if these materially fortunate persons could add the spiritual fortune of Krishna consciousness to their life, then that life would be successful. After Prabhupada's talk, Mr. Matthews thanked him for his discourse on Hindu philosophy. But immediately Prabhupada interrupted. Actually, we are not Hindu. And Prabhupada explained the universality of Krishna consciousness. As the meeting broke, some interested students came forward for more discussion with Swamiji. One Sanskrit student asked, how can a brahmachari be expected to understand the Gita Govinda, since it deals in so many intricacies of man-woman relationships and love affairs? Everybody knows today is Jayadev Goswami's. He is the author of Govinda, this Gita Govinda. Srila Prabhupada replied, only a brahmachari can understand Gita Govinda, because it is not about mundane sexuality. It is the highest spiritual technology of Radha and Krishna. Prabhupada was especially pleased about his Harvard lecture. The next morning, Hansarupa went to see him with a check for $125 from Harvard. That was a very good meeting last night, Prabhupada said. It seemed to the devotees accompanying Prabhupada from one speaking engagement to another that they were the real audience, the ones to whom Prabhupada was speaking. It was for them that he had come to Boston more than for the 200 students who sat in the chapel at the Northeastern until the bell rang, or the technologists in the lounge at MIT who left after the lecture for the movies and the bars. Prabhupada was setting the example of how to preach. It was for them, the ones who would have to carry on the mission in his absence. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, 4th Canto, Part 1, 5th Chapter, texts 11 and 12. I'll read 11 and then we'll chant 12. And this chapter is titled, Frustration of the Sacrifice of Daksha. Amarshyat Vatam Asaya Tejasang. You can repeat that and then we'll just go. Manu Plutam Dorni Riksham Vrtu Bru Kutyam Manu Plutam Dorni Riksham Vrkutyam Krala Dangsrabir Udashta Bhagavan Krala Dangsrabir Udashta Bhaganam Yatvasti Kim Kopayato Vidatu. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The gigantic black man bared his fearful teeth. By the movements of his brows, he scattered the luminaries all over the sky. and he covered them with his strong, piercing effulgence. Because of the misbehavior of Daksha, even Lord Brahma, Daksha's father, could not have been saved from the great exhibition of anger. Text 12. Varevam udvigna jasotyamane. Varevam udvigna jasotyamane. Janena dakshasya muhur mahatmana. Janena dakshasya muhur mahatmana. Utpeta utpatama sahasrasu. Upeta upatatama sahasrasu. Vayavahadivi bumochapayak. Vayavahadivi bumochapayak. Varevam dudvigna jasotyamane. Janena daksha shamuho mahatmana. Vayavahadivi bumochapayak. Vaevam dudvigna jasotyamane. Janena dakshasya muhur mahatmana. Utpetu upatatama sahasraso. Vayavahadivi bumochapayak. Vaeva udvigna jasotyamane. Janena dakshasya muhur mahatmana. Utpetu upatatama sahasraso. Vayevahadivi bumochapayak. That was good, Michael. Vaevam udvigna jasotyamane. Janena dakshasya muhur mahatmana. Utpetu upasatama sahasraso. Vayevahadivi bumochapayak. Vaevam dudvigna jasotyamane. Janena dakshasya muhur mahatmana. Utpetu upatatama sahasraso. Vayavahadivi bumochapayak. Ladies. Vaevam udvigna jasotyamane. Janena dakshasya muhur mahatmana. Utpetu upatatama sahasraso. Vayavahadivi bumochapayak. Bahu, much. Evam, in this manner. Udignajasha, with nervous glances. Uchamane, while this was being said. Janena, by the persons assembled at the sacrifice. Jakshasya, of Daksha. Muhu, again and again. Mahatmanaha, strong-hearted. Utpetu, appeared. Utpatatamaha, very powerful symptoms. Sahasrasa, by the thousands. Maya avaha, producing fear. Divi, in the sky. Umo, on the earth. Cha, and. Paryak, from all sides. Translation and purport by Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. While all the people talked among themselves, Daksha saw dangerous omens from all sides, from the earth and from the sky. Please repeat. While all the people talked among themselves, Daksha saw dangerous omens from all sides, from the earth and from the sky. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, Daksha has been described as Mahatma. The word Mahatma has been commented upon by different commentators in various manners. Viragavacharya has indicated that this word Mahatma means steady in heart. That is to say that Daksha was so strong-hearted that even when his beloved daughter was prepared to lay down her life, he was steady and unshaken. But in spite of his being so strong-hearted, he was perturbed when he saw the various disturbances created by that gigantic black demon. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarked in this connection that even if one is Mahatma, a great soul, unless he exhibits the symptoms of a Mahatma, he should be considered a Duratma, or a degraded soul. In Bhagavad Gita 9:13, the word Mahatma describes the pure devotee of the Lord. Mahatmanas tamam parta daivam prakritamastataha. A Mahatma is always under the guidance of the internal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And thus, how could such a misbehaved person as Daksha be a Mahatma? A Mahatma is supposed to have all the good qualities of the demigods, and thus Daksha, lacking those qualities, cannot be called a Mahatma. He should instead be called a Duratma, a degraded soul. The word Mahatma to describe the qualifications of Daksha is used sarcastically. Om Jnana Tamandasya Ganantana Salakaya Saksoram Ratamilitasmai Sri Garavana Mukam Karoti Vasalam Pangrum Mankaya Yakripata Mahamande Sri Garam Dhiratanam. Translations again. A gigantic black man bared his fearful teeth by the movements of his brow. By the movements of his brows, he scattered luminaries all over the sky, and he covered them with his strong, piercing effulgence. Because of the misbehavior of Daksha, even Lord Brahma, Daksha's father, could not have been saved from the great exhibition of anger. While all the people talked among themselves, Daksha saw dangerous omens from all sides, from the earth and from the sky. Interesting, the use of the word Mahatma and how it's been, in this case, sarcastically applied. And we see that occasionally someone will, under different circumstances, you may address someone, even amongst devotees, it's a little bit of a joke. Sometimes you'll call somebody Maharaj. Hey, Maharaj, you forgot that. You know, because, you say this is, you're supposed to be in that category, that you don't make mistakes or you like that. But so this is, so it's not, apparently it's been done even for 5,000 years. So this is just something we can all relate to. How such a word can be applied under different time and circumstances in order to achieve a different effect. Of course, that verse Prabhupada alludes to here, Yashyasti Bhaktiya Bhagavatiya Kinchana Sabaya Gunataptra Samasite Suraha Harava Bhakta Sikuto Mahadgunaya Manorete Asiti Davatobhi, is that the devotee automatically acquires all the good qualities of the demigods without any extra endeavor, just by executing the process of devotional service. But that manoraten asati daivato bihi, that the others, even if they're following some so-called spiritual process, their only achievement, their only accomplishment is that they're hovering on the mental platform. And it's interesting how that's used. And sometimes we can imagine that there's, everyone's heard the term maybe helicopter parent. You know, parents who kind of like hover over their kids and stuff like that. They can't seem to let it go. You got to be everywhere, always watching and things like that. But this hovering is that he's on the mental platform, but you cannot stay in that situation. You have to go up or down, or sideways or back and forth. But this hovering alludes to the fact that it's not permanent. That whatever has been achieved to that person, it doesn't last. And so sometimes we also see that devotees will come and they'll make an attempt in Krishna consciousness, but that their application of the philosophy is superficial. They haven't internalized what it means to surrender. Because ultimately, Krishna is bringing Arjuna to that point, sarva dhamma pratyaja. I mean, everything else, 18 chapters, but the goal is that one has to surrender. And everything else philosophically is there to prepare one. Kind of like when you have a field and you want to plant some crops, first you have to disc it, then you have to plow it, then you have to seed it. There's a lot of steps involved. So this is what's going on in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is taking Arjuna through this various preparation. But the bottom line is that sarva dhamma pratyaja. You have to surrender. And if you don't get to that point, then everything that's come before it has been shrama eva hi kaivam, a useless waste of time. You know, this is why we don't unnecessarily on book distribution spend an hour trying to convince someone to take a book. What's the point? Prabhupada said, what can your 3 minutes do? You want to get him the book? According to the situation, the time and circumstances, he's been put into that situation. He's come into contact with the book distributor. He's already, the opportunity is there. It's been arranged. He simply has to take the book. And it may have an immediate effect, or it may be what do you call it? Like we used to have a movie on book distribution, very famous in the 80s, and we used to take it around to all the life memberships when we used to go preaching. And the books were compared to time bombs. And you don't know, it may not have an immediate effect, but eventually it will. And maybe someone's had that experience. I had a similar experience. A book was sitting in another person's home, just an acquaintance, and he was not paying any attention to it, and somehow it came to my attention. So these things are like that. It was just there. It could have been there for years. But I was just waiting for the right person or the right time and the right circumstances. So we can, from our perspective, and Prabhupada said very famously in Australia, when a devotee asked, how long does it take to become Krishna conscious or to surrender? And Prabhupada said, minutes. Then he said, no minutes, moments. Moments. It only takes that one application of the consciousness of the living entity, fully focused, to say, yes, I accept, like Krishna, like Arjuna, I accept everything you say is true. I accept everything you say is true. So if everything that Krishna is saying is true, then what is the difficulty? What leaves to be discussed or contemplated or argued? You know, those things are already past for those who are devotees. They no longer need to be convinced. I mean, occasionally, obviously, we're all in a situation where doubts may arise. And doubting, Prabhupada said, is a sign of intelligence. But one has to eliminate the doubt by the application of this intelligence. And that's the 9th chapter, Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pavichamidam Uttamam, Pratyaksha Bhagamam Dhamya. Pratyaksha Bhagama means that this knowledge is the king of education, most secret of all secrets. There's the purest knowledge, because it gives direct perception of the self by realization. There's the perfection of religion. Direct perception of the self by realization. So this is the practical. Everything we're doing, it's meant to be practically applied. That brings out the truth. That brings out the conviction. And to that extent that one is convinced, then the process of Krishna consciousness is simple. Simple for the simple at heart, difficult for the crooked. And what does that mean? Difficult for the crooked means I have to constantly convince myself, or I have to have somebody else constantly convince me. Prabhu, you're not that body. That's another joke we used to walk around to each other saying, just because, there's why not a little humor in the ashram where you say, Prabhu, you're not that body. And we say, you're also not that mind. So these things are there, you're just to kind of keep the mood a little upbeat, because sometimes you see someone who's a little bit like, down or whatever. You have a cold, I have a cold, say, hey, Prabhu, you're not that body. And so that's it. We understand, and that's a little bit of a reminder, how Krishna consciousness has so many practical facets. There's always a way to remember Krishna directly, indirectly. This is like when we're reading Krishna book. So many, everything is there focused on Krishna. Right? And I was corrected by my God sister the other day. Krishna is a cynosure. I said cynosure. He's a cynosure. Cynosure means he's the apple of everyone's eye. Right? Everyone's heard that term, the apple of everyone's eye. Right? Krishna is he's the complete focus. There's nothing else required. It's totally satisfying. So to hear about him, to see the deity, how beautifully dressed, there's nothing that compares. So you can have so many words. What do they call them? Superlatives. There's no way that mere words can describe the beauty of Krishna. But one gets that feeling. His whole being is pervaded by that sense of beauty when he sees the deities. It's a simultaneous experience of everything that is the definition of beauty. So we're very fortunate in Krishna consciousness to have access to this. Other things, other philosophies, like the students in Harvard Divinity School, they're looking for something a little, they want to hear the flowery language of the Vedas. That's what they're going to school for. They want to hear these words spun in such a way to make them feel, how can you say, superior, that due to my position and my intellect, I can understand this, and others cannot. Those who could not make the cut in Harvard, or maybe they're only in some community college or some city college. They have a term, I think it's in French, hoi polloi, means the everyday people. The everyday people. So that's a bit of a trap. If one is so puffed up, he thinks that I'm so fortunate, only I can appreciate this. But Prabhupada was clear, and he immediately caught that, someone is thinking that this is Hindu philosophy. But no, this is not Hindu. Actually has nothing to do with Hindu, but still that misconception pervades. But it is not our duty to simply correct those misconceptions, because the philosophy can be delivered without even touching on that point. There's nowhere in the Bhagavad Gita where there's any reason to have to relate it to a secular philosophy, secular or ethnic, religion. That's absolutely unneeded. When Krishna says that Deino Sminyatadehe Kumaram Yovanam Dra, he doesn't just say that, well, for the Hindus is neither birth nor death, nor having once been to yet. No. This is for everybody. This is the point. That it's for everyone. And so we're very, otherwise, how would it have taken root? Prabhupada knew this in his heart of hearts when he came to America. Even though he articulated that, how will they understand? You know, his famous poem on Board of Jalukha. How will they, why have you sent me here? Anyway, if you want me to dance me dance as you like. So this is his, Prabhupada's very, how can you say, such a level of emotion is difficult to even understand how much Prabhupada's love was manifest in that journey across the ocean. In order to come to someplace with a complete unknown. A complete unknown. How will they understand? How will I make them understand? There was no success before him. You know, Vivekananda came and this person came, but there was no success, no real success. Only a few people who were attracted by the flowery language. They had, as a result of that visit and that late 19th century, they created a society called the Theosophical Society. It had nothing to do with, you know, the truth. Theosophy, it's not even philosophy. Philosophy means love of the truth. What does theosophy mean? You know? It had no hint of a connection with the transcendence. But this is par for the course. If one doesn't want to know Krishna or surrender to Krishna, then they will always create so many different sub-philosophies that seem to have some connection to the truth, but very remotely, like a dim light. You know, so this is nothing significant, and that's the key. And of course, this purport of here and the story that's being narrated, we can hardly even comprehend the circumstances and the scene that's taking place there. You know, the potency of Lord Shiva is inconceivable. He can create destroy the entire universe. And in one sense, he's the cause of both, the creation and destruction. He is the potent factor that activates the Mahat Tattva, without which the material cosmic manifestation is dormant. You know, so, and then again he comes and by his potency, he destroys the visible. You know, only that which has been created can be destroyed. So how much power is involved then? How could Daksha, and this is why it's a passage, how could Daksha not understand the potency of Lord Shiva? He himself is a son of Lord Brahma. In that sense, him and Lord Shiva are related. At the same time, there's one becomes covered over, you know, by the potency. Daiviyesha gunamaya mama maya talatya. Very difficult to overcome, unless one has surrendered. So obviously, this means that Daksha was not at all surrendered, you know, to Krishna or to the divinity, which would have given him some insight that he was playing with fire. And so, having had this experience and been exposed to such situations, we should be very careful, because these things are all related. You know, we're saying every morning that the blasphemed devotees who have dedicated their lives to propagate the holy name of the Lord. Right? So we're not immune from the effects of such transgressions. And so we have to take it see things very carefully. That what is from our perspective, and who are we? We're just tiny, infinitesimal souls. But we've been given an amazing opportunity. And the fact that we can, and we're not claiming this in some arrogant way, but we should be grateful, because it is that gratitude which allows us to enter into the deeper understanding. If one is thinking, no, I will, by my own intellectual capacity, I will unravel the mysteries of the scripture. No, he will be frustrated. Krishna specifically tells that what's that verse? I'll remember it later. But essentially, their knowledge is stolen by illusion. Right? Their knowledge is stolen by illusion. So we have to, just like that verse, see? Sarva Shichaham, Krishna is the source of remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So how can one be puffed up when he can't even remember something which, is supposed to be there on the tip of his tongue? Right? But nevertheless, that's not the criteria. So Prabhupada has given us some concessions that this is Kali Yuga. That in that pastime with Lord Nrsingadev and Prahlad Maharaj, when he's just a young boy, he's 5 years old, but he's had the benefit of hearing, the absolute truth, even in the womb of his mother. And so he's already completely dedicated to the Lord, even though he has never seen him. He's never seen. Actually, no one has seen the incarnation of Lord Nrsingadev before, up to that point. So Prahlad Maharaj has never seen Vishnu. He's never seen Krishna. 5 years old. He's only heard of him. And so in that pastime, when Lord Nrsingadev finally appears in this huge, you read the description in the 7th canto about this, and it's just similar to this. This is not just half man, half lion in the same dimensions as we would expect to see. This is a murti that's touching the sky, with his raised, pointed ears. Very ferocious. And everybody is afraid, not just Hiranyakashipu, who's just been disemboweled. Like that. Everyone is there, it's struck. It's like a horror movie. People try to make special effects to get the person to have some ghastly experience. So this has to be the most ghastly experience to be there. And the whole arena is filled with dead bodies, because Hiranyakashipu killed, Lord Nrsingadev killed all the soldiers of Hiranyakashipu, not just Hiranyakashipu. And Hiranyakashipu is still sitting there on the lap of Nrsingadev, disemboweled. And then it's like anticlimax. What do? All the demigods are there now. Everybody's there, all watching this, or seeing this. And so you have to acknowledge that, just like in the Bhāgavatam, somebody comes, they give you a garland. It's a little bit of a gesture of acknowledgement that this is the seat of Vyasadeva, and, we try to honor it. So they have a garland, who made it, where it came about, but all of a sudden there's a garland, and you can see in the picture, Prahlad Maharaj is standing there with the garland. Lord Nrsingadev is up here, and Prahlad Maharaj is down here, and he has the garland. But how did he get that garland? There was first Lord Brahma had the garland. He didn't want to put it on. And then he turned to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva didn't want to put it on. Nobody wanted to approach Lord Nrsingadev. There's so much anger. He's burning the whole place up. Then they turned to Lakshmi Devi, who is the eternal consort of Vishnu. And her response was even more telling. She said, I don't know if this is my husband. I have never seen this person before. As a chaste wife, she says, I'm not going to go put a garland on this. So finally they turned to Prahlad Maharaj and they gave it to him. And because he understood that this was his Lord internally, not externally, not from having seen, because this connection, this experience is something which is not external. And then Prabhupada commented, he said, therefore it is not by seniority, it is by sincerity that one can approach Krishna. Because all these other demigods are all senior to a 5-year-old Prahlad Maharaj. In so many ways. And Prabhupada said, yes, it's not by seniority, it's by sincerity. So this sincerity is not necessarily a tangible thing. You can measure it. Spiritual master measures it. He sees you, he sees your sincerity. He sees whether this person is qualified on that level, that he will take to devotional service seriously and sincerely. And in other places, Prabhupada said sincerity is the only qualification for advancing in spiritual life. But that sincerity is manifest, like I said, it's not a written test. So what is that? So you keep going further, and then Prabhupada, paraphrasing Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he said, one should not try to see Krishna, but he should act in such a way that Krishna sees him. So this is the final iteration of that concept of sincerity being the only ingredient required for advancement in spiritual life. One has to act in such a way that Krishna sees him, not that he's trying to see Krishna artificially. And not that he's thinking, oh, Krishna, just see how nicely I've done. No, he does it in such, that's the humility of a devotee, that he's not looking for profit, distinction, or adoration. He's only trying to satisfy the Lord by his activities. And then we understand that this is how Prabhupada was nurturing us and guiding us. He wasn't trying to make us into scholars. He wasn't trying to make us into pundits or to make us into show bottle spiritualists, that everything is correct from the superficial aspect. Yes, we try to act in such a way that the sadachar, that the behavior is there, so that we don't embarrass Prabhupada by doing something foolish, especially when we're in India and people expect us to see or to understand that a Vaishnava acts in a certain capacity. But it is not fanatical. One time I saw, and this is not to be understood or taken out of context, but I remember seeing one devotee who was criticizing another devotee because he took off his shoes, and then with his left hand he picked up his shoes and he put them on the shelf. But if he didn't, go to find a source of water and wash his hands before he went into the temple. So in India, that's a big no-no. You touch your shoes, you better wash your hands. Touch anything like that, you better wash your hands. There's so many different ritualistic things that required to be done. But on a certain platform, those things are negative, how can you say, traditions that can hold you back if you're too much consumed by these rules and regulations. And you see on the highest level, someone is considered to be advanced when he ignores all these. And you see the avadutas, they never bathe. They don't even dress themselves. This is, on many circumstances, they're considered to be the highest level, like Judd Bharat. They purposely act in such a way to keep everyone back because they don't want to be involved in anything social, material. They don't want people coming to bother them. But it cannot be done artificially. But just that one has to be cautious. He should not be trying to find fault in others under any circumstances. It's not just thinking, yes, I should correct myself. I should be careful whether or not my behavior is reflecting properly on my spiritual master, and my God brothers and God sisters. So in this way, we have Daksha's example, how not to, even in family life, being hard-hearted, stone-hearted, steady-hearted, whatever they want to call it. The fact that he was unmoved by the potential death of his youngest daughter was telling that this person is not. He didn't see that her relationship to Lord Shiva was a net positive for him. That his son-in-law was one of the greatest Vaishnavas, in existence, and somehow or other he couldn't accommodate that. So this just goes to show that it's not by position or power or prestige. And Lord Shiva, of course, he has some, externally he looks a little bit, rough around the edges, as they would say, hangs around in the crematory areas covered with ashes, he's got matted locks, But he's a special soul. And one can tell by his behavior. But if you're trying to judge the book by its cover, you would have been mistaken. So we should also be cautious in that respect. And not just think that, that the best among us are going to be the most well-dressed or anything like that. It doesn't have anything to do with the externals. But how that person behaves in his relationship with the spiritual master and Krishna, that is the, how can you say it? What you want to understand, how you want to see how that person is. So this seems to be the lesson here in every respect. That Daksha was such an advanced soul, supposedly, but he couldn't see right in front of his face who is the real great soul, who is the real Mahatma. And so therefore and as it will be shown a little bit later on, he's condemned. So let us not fall into this trap of thinking that we're so advanced and we're so, how can you say, unaffected that we can ignore these various relationships. Whether it's with an intimate connection like family member or with our God family, because we've already put into perspective what our relationships are, which are the true relationships. And another thing about Prahlad Maharaj, when he garlanded Lord Nrsingadev, Lord Nrsingadev, offered a benediction. He says, whatever you want. And the famous response by Prahlad Maharaj, I don't want anything. I said, I'm not your devotee seeking some reciprocation. This is what the definition of unalloyed, ahoitikiya pratyata. This is unalloyed, unmotivated, uninterrupted. He says, this is not a mercantile exchange, that I do something for you, you do something for me. And, but then he said, well, but at least for my father, and this is the Vaishnava mood, for others. And this is a very high platform. We see even in the material world, there's, they have various military and civilian things like search and rescue. And their motto is so that others may live. The one is selfless in that respect. He's not concerned. What he does so that others may live. So Prahlad Maharaj he said, not for me, I don't want anything. But if you could just liberate my father. And then Lord Nrsingadev said, what to speak of your father? Your father, his father, their fathers, for 7 generations in the past, and 7 generations in the future, they're all liberated. All liberated. So this was the conclusion, automatically. So he didn't have to give a benediction. This is automatic. As a Vaishnava, you get this credits, and this is true for every situation. For a Brahmin, like he said, it's 14 generations, and for a Kshatriya, it's 7 generations. So I'm not sure exactly what the next step down is. But any Vaishnava, any devotee, his whole family is liberated backwards and forwards, just by his sincere endeavor in Krishna consciousness. He doesn't have, that's why we, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says we don't have any duty to perform. Any superficial duty. We don't have to, perform homa, fire sacrifices. We don't have to make so many ritualistic adjustments to take into consideration to counteract our karma kanda, our karmic activities. These things don't apply to the Vaishnava. He simply has to carry out the word of the spiritual master. Everything is automatically achieved. Everything. So there's nothing left. So now no one has an excuse. Your material life is finished. You don't have to go out and make any extra endeavor. You only have to figure out, how can I serve Krishna uninterrupted? Ahoitakiya pratiyata yayatma supasidati. That alone will satisfy the self. Atma supasidati. Any questions? I think Bhakti Nick has a question. I was thinking, I don't see, in the illustrations here, I was trying to see just to remind myself what this demon looked like here. And I was, but it wasn't visible in that one. So I don't know if they had it in a previous version. But it's always nice to see how the artists, inspired by the text, would portray these various personalities like that. Like we have in the Krishna book, you see so many of the demons, like Palambasura, things like that. They're great, huge, big, blackish demons with copper red eyes and fiery hair. It's very interesting to think of them like that. I have it. I'm going to put it up here. Huh? I'm going to put up the picture. Yeah? It comes up? Yeah. Wow, on the chats. How about that?
Could I ask a quick question? Not sure if this is working.
No, it's not on. I mean, it's on, but it's not. Somehow his mic is not. This mic is not working. The class may hear it, but
okay, I can speak loud. You said that there was a person at Harvard that was studying Vaishnavism. Was he a devotee, or was he just knew about Vaishnavism before Prabhupada came?
Just a student of Vaishnavism. There's quite. Not Harvard School of Divinity. There's many who came in contact with Prabhupada, and who were enlightened to see the Chaitanya tradition, the living example. Because other than that, previously, if you wanted to have some example, you went to India, as many did, but there you saw in a very limited fashion. And it appeared that the movement of Chaitanya, from that perspective, from a scholarly perspective, was localized. It only existed here in West Bengal or in India. So no one had any conception of the universality, which was Prabhupada's what he admonished him, that this is universal. It's not Hindu, universal. And so this is something, and of course, we practically experience that. We don't see anyone, but we're printing books in every single language in the world. And why are we printing them? Because there is an audience for them. People are taking them. And so there's nothing more universal, inherently universal. And when people read these, it transcends their whole previous material misconceptions about who they are ethnically or religiously. That all fades to the background. Now I realize, yes, I'm not Catholic, or I'm not Hindu, or I'm not Buddhist. No, I am a spirit soul. And now real knowledge begins, real understanding. Because that's from there's only, this knowledge exists only on that platform, real knowledge. You know, you can't have real knowledge as long as there's any misconception that I am his body. It can't take place. That truth, Vijja Vinaya Sampanye Brahma Govani Hastini, says the learned sage sees with equal vision, you know, that spirit soul within all these, the elephant, dog eater, the Brahmin, the saintly person. He has to be able to see that. Then we can appreciate that this is true religion. Because you see, other religions don't see equally. They're seeing us and them. That's their universal application. Us and them. And it doesn't matter which one is the them and which one is the us. So, but only in this tradition, only in the truth, does it begin from that platform that we are not these bodies. And therefore, that's the basis of universality. The so-called, what are they called, the brotherhood of man. You know? Because we have to understand that the common origin, you know. So we're very fortunate to have this, and of course, just like anything valuable, you have to protect it. Like if you have a diamond, you don't just casually leave it laying around. You have a safe, you know, and of course there's so many misers. You know, a miser is somebody who has that diamond, but he takes it out of the safe, he opens it up, and he's just gawking at it, you know, and says, oh, this is such a, my diamond, what is that, like in, what is that, The Hobbit? My precious, my precious. Right? There's my precious, my precious. Okay, so, but then he puts it back in the safe, he doesn't use it. You know, you could use it for so many good things. You know, so we have so much opportunity. We have this knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets, the purest knowledge. And we're the only ones giving it out. We're not just thinking, oh no, I'm going to keep this to myself. This is too valuable. I can't tell this person. He's going to misuse it. He won't understand. No, we don't make such excuses. Right? We want to distribute it everywhere to everyone. Regardless of, you know, time, place, and circumstances. Just distribute this knowledge. And so, you know, we don't want to become kripana. The word, I don't know, it's etymologically if that has any word, but you know, in a you know, slang for a person who's kind of an off person, you call him a creep. That guy's a creep. You know, and in Sanskrit, kripana means a miser. He may have something valuable, but he won't share it. You know, so he's a kripana. So, you know, I don't know how it slid into the vernacular, into the slang, but, you know, you've got that thing. So, you know, don't be a creep. Don't be a kripana. Spread this knowledge. Distribute these books. Prabhupada said, distribute these books. If you really want to please me, distribute these books. And so that's the only purpose. That's our only purpose, to have the temple. Because when you distribute these books, people will come. And they'll come and ask questions. So Prabhupada said, that is the only reason we have a temple, that people can come in and try to appreciate, get to the next stage. Very important. You know, it's not for nothing that we make such an endeavor to maintain, you know, this quite old building. But it has such a glorious purpose. And the opportunity has been given to us, and everything we do in relationship to this building is for the future generations, that they also have the opportunity to come and see Radha Govinda. It's such a wonderful situation. It's just that makes everything worthwhile to see their lordships so nicely taken care of. So, Bhakti Nick, was that okay? Any other questions? Because it's 9:04. Is there a question on that? What's that question? Ah, there he is. Look at that guy. You see that? I couldn't remember that he had multiple arms. Look at that. And he looks like a Daksha. You know, Daksha is portrayed differently in different places also. But like an animal to be slaughtered, that's how it's done. There's a chopping block. And it's very quick. And, you know, supposedly, you know, what is humane about cutting off somebody's head? Nothing humane about it, but yet, there it is. Look at that picture. Yep. There's, we were in a place called Makrana. Makrana is not a nice place. It's a nice place because you get the most wonderful marble in India from Makrana. Makrana is in the middle of the desert. And the interesting thing from a geological standpoint is that most of these deserts were oceans at one point. And not just oceans, mountain ranges. And over the course of millions upon millions of years, all the living entities that inhabit the ocean, they call them crustaceans. So those that have the exoskeletons made of calcium and whatnot, their bodies, they settle to the ocean floor. And then there's some upheaval. I mean, this is what the scientists say, but we extrapolate. And then mountains create this pressure, which is essentially how everything valuable is made in one sense. And through this pressure, this calcium carbonate turns into marble. And then millions of years later, we're in the desert of Makrana, and there's all these mines, and they're pit mines. It's not like you don't dig a narrow soul. This marble is basically what used to be the sea floor, the seabed. And so you go down, and it's so thick, you can imagine how many millions of years it took to make marble hundreds of feet thick. And you have to cut the slabs out. That's another story. Anyway, we used to go there, and we used to joke that this place is the most hellish place on earth, because there's no facility. It's boiling hot, and back in the day, there was no relief. There's nothing, you know, there's no air conditioning, and there's nothing. Absolutely nothing. But the only reason you're going there is because you're getting the best quality marble for the temples that can be had. The purest, the hardest, the whitest marble. Like that. And so this, but it's just the endeavor of itself. We used to, I know, of course, His Holiness Kadamba Maharaj, he also used to come because he had, we were building the Pushpa Samadhi at the same time we were building Prabhupada's sacred Samadhi in Vrindavan. And so we were using some marble from the mines for the dome in Mayapur, and the Pushpa Samadhi. So that's there. So we used to joke how hellish this place is. You know, that even on earth, but it has, the benefit is that you're getting something very nice for Krishna. Like that. So this is so, you can always take something that seems bad and turn it into something that's wonderful for Krishna. Make the best use of a bad bargain. So, any other questions? It was nice to see that guy. We get some picture in the demons. And we don't get nightmares. Devotees don't get nightmares. I haven't had a nightmare in 50 years. What's a nightmare? Everything about Krishna is wonderful. You dream about Krishna. There's nothing afraid. It says fear personified is afraid of the holy name. Right? When you're in the material world, you're filled with nightmares, things which disturb you because they're coming from the unknown. But as soon as you come to Krishna consciousness, no more. Because all these things are insignificant. They're not real. Phantasmagoria. Okay, so let's continue on with our day and go get ready to serve the hundreds of guests that are coming. Make it nice for them. And I'd like to thank the Gita Life crew for making everything nice in the temple. And they had a nice program and a nice place, Sakshi Gopal, the witness Gopal. And they put everything up and put everything down and cleaned it. So that's the way it should be done. Cooking means cleaning, everything means cleaning. So Grantaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki Jai. All glories to all the assembled devotees. Jai. Gaur Premanandi.